Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah you're well, guys. So with restrictions being lifted, we're back in the office. Some of you guys may be enjoying hybrid working and you guys may now be focusing on your career. You may want to leave your role or you may want to get promoted. In my opinion, career progression would have stalled, generally speaking, during lockdown because companies' plans going forward would have changed, our perspectives would have changed, we would have wanted to get used to working from home, and we would have focused on job security because no one wanted to be made redundant. But now, inshallah, as we return to some degree of normality, career progression is going to be at the top of people's minds. And as someone who got promoted to manager last year and manages his own small team, I thought I'd share some hints and tips to help you get to the next stage. If you haven't done so already, the first thing you should be doing is identifying your organization's values, behaviors, competencies that all employees should be delivering on. And especially with larger organizations, they'll also have a list of expected behaviors for each job role. So from this, you should be able to identify the behaviors and characteristics of what a senior should be doing, a manager, a director, and partner. And what you'll notice is as you go through the stages, as you progress up, there's a lot less doing and a lot more management and oversight. Through this research, you should be able to identify the behaviors and characteristics that you need to adopt before you're ready to get promoted to the next stage. And also you may identify behaviors and characteristics that you're not doing at your current level. The next step is to go and have a candid conversation with your line manager where you're going to talk about nothing else but your career plans and progression. And that should show them how serious you are. It's important to have your line manager on board because outside of yourself, they're going to be the best advocate for your progression. And I know it can be a bit tough, guys. Sometimes we can be a bit shy to have these direct conversations with your line manager. Trust me, it's not as hard as it sounds. Honestly, just book 30 minutes in and ask them, what do I need to do to get to the next stage? If you've got a good manager, they'll definitely have a vested interest in your progression because their success lies in your success. Now, as a manager, I'm also measured on how I develop my team. So if someone from my team gets promoted, that makes me look good as well because it shows that I can develop that person. But I also understand, guys, that sometimes we don't have good managers because some managers won't be interested in you progressing. They'll be more concerned about their sales. Oh, if so-and-so leaves, who's going to do their work? I'll have to backfill them. So actually, it's better if they stay in that role rather than progress with the company. And although I agree that that's not great, you should be using that as motivation to push even harder for your progression. And guys, what I'd also say is when you have this catch up, make sure that you have tangible outcomes coming out of it. I'm not saying smart targets. For your first meeting, you're not going to have smart targets in place, but something tangible. You know what you've got to do to get to the next stage. So by now, I'd say you've completed the research stage. You have a holistic understanding of what you need to do per your company's behaviors, values, competencies, and you also have a bit more of a detailed understanding from this candid conversation with your line manager. The next thing to focus on is networking. Now, it's something I talk about a lot. And I can't stress the importance of this because in this scenario, it's very unlikely there'll be one person deciding whether to progress you or not. It's very likely that your line manager will have to talk with their line manager. And it may be that a senior leader in your area is also involved in the decision-making process. Once you identify these people, you need to catch up with them so that they can formulate their own opinion about you. Because if you don't, when your line manager goes up to their manager and says, oh, I want to promote Fez, a simple answer will be, well, I don't know anything about him. I haven't seen him in 3 years. Or he doesn't catch up with me. I'm not too sure about him getting promoted. Honestly, guys, I found this area the toughest, especially early on in my career, because I felt that I was catching up with these people just to get promoted. I was using them, and that's not like me. I was one of those people who thought I can sit at my desk, do the best work I can, and I'll eventually get recognized for it. Speaking with experience, that's very naive. 2 tips I can share with you to help you out. So firstly, remember, guys, no one is going to be more interested in your promotion than you. No one cares about it more than you. So you're going to be your best salesperson. So if you're not involved in the process, you're not networking with people, you're not giving yourself the best possible chance. Secondly, on the point that I felt I was using someone, I actually got some advice from a senior leader and they said that Fez, everyone has to network, right? We all know we have to do it. So you're definitely not using someone. But when you don't care about someone's kids or you don't have a mutual interest, the best thing you can do is actually avoid all of that awkward conversation and actually talk about a project which you both have a mutual interest in. And that way, you're not only networking, I'm not only getting a better idea of you, we're also talking about work, so I'm seeing what you can do. That was one of the best pieces of advice I've received. And now what I do is when I'm catching up with a senior leader who I don't really have much in common with, I'll talk about a mutual project because A, we're both interested in it, and B, we're networking at the same time. So now, guys, you've done all your research, you've caught up with your line manager, you've identified people to network with, to raise your own profile within your team or area. Now it's time to do the hard, practical work and go the extra mile. So firstly, you have to take on additional responsibility. Now, it's okay to go and have a chat with your line manager, but how are you going to back that up with action? And it's very likely your line manager isn't going to spoon feed you. They want to see how you react. How much do you actually want this promotion? So it's very likely that you'll have to go up to them and take on additional responsibility. It may be that instead of leading a project, you're now involved in leading and now doing some of the review. Maybe you're also looking after the budget. After my initial conversation, I'd have another catch up with my manager, identify things they do that I may be able to take over, maybe substitute for them in certain meetings, lead members of the team. And this is where it's great, guys. It doesn't have to be a formal arrangement. It can be informal as well. So as an example, guys, many companies may have a policy that graduates have to report into a manager or above. Now, as a senior, you want to show that you can lead and develop that graduate. So you agree informally with your manager that you'll take over more of their development and report back to your manager on how they're progressing. But aside from taking on some of your line manager's responsibilities, you should also be looking at some of your projects. What can you do delivery-wise that will give you more visibility? It may be that you get involved in more ad hoc projects, so you get involved in graduate interviews or projects which give you more exposure to different teams. And that's something that's quite great actually, because A, it means you'll get recognition from different teams for the excellent work that you're doing. And B, going back to it, networking. You're going to be networking with people from other areas of the business. And if there's managers hearing about you, they're going to be talking about you to your line manager. And hopefully it's going to be good things. And linked to this, you may also want to consider a secondment opportunity, a chance to go and work in another team for around 6 months to a year to build your skills and experience. Now, some of you off the bat may be against this. Why? Because it means that you're delaying your promotion. But actually, there's a longer game to play here. If you want to progress to leadership level roles, say senior manager, director, partner, CFO, whatever you want to progress to, those roles will require a range of skills and experience. And in my opinion, those people who have taken a secondment and shown that they can work in, lead, manage and develop other teams are best placed to progress onto those senior opportunities. So although in the short term it may delay your progression to the next stage, long term it can help you get to those senior leadership positions. The other two things to bear in mind, guys, is firstly that you may love your new role. You may have decided that you want to progress onto audit manager and you've trained in audit all your life, but actually you go and then do a secondment in corporate finance or treasury or tax, wherever it may be, and you love it. And because of your passion, you're doing great work. That opens up more opportunities for you in your new area. Secondly, even if you don't love it, but you've done a good job, you've decided it's not for you, and you want to go back to audit and progress there, your secondment manager will recognize that actually this isn't for Fez, but he's done a great job, and feed that back to your line manager. So now you'll have two managers fighting your corner. The final area you need to focus on is feedback. And honestly, this is where I think a lot of us will fall down on. So generally speaking, we can be poor at giving feedback. When we give feedback at the end of the project or when we receive feedback, it's generally very good. We don't go the extra mile and explore what we didn't do good. And the honest truth is, guys, we know what we've done good before we even go into that meeting. So actually, we should be focusing on our development points. Another thing I've noticed, guys, is that when we're working on projects, we'll know what our development areas are, or these things could have gone better. But when we're having that discussion with that line manager and they haven't actually brought those points up, we stay quiet, we don't bring them up. And it's very important that you bring up those areas for development that you thought were there, because then your line manager may be able to explain, actually, Fez, that's not the case. It's not an area for development because of X, Y, Z. And most importantly, that means that you can focus your efforts elsewhere on your true development points. So with feedback, guys, I want you guys to focus on getting a lot more feedback on the projects that you're working on, with examples of the behaviors and characteristics that you're displaying. It may now be that you're showing the ones required at manager level or the next stage of your career. B, when you get feedback, absolutely fine to feel good about the praise you're getting, your strengths that you showed, but make sure your focus is on the development points. And C, where possible, try and get as much written feedback. And the reason why is it's much less likely to be misinterpreted. Remember, when we're having a conversation, it doesn't matter what I say, it matters how you interpret what I said, and written messages are much less likely to be misinterpreted. And I just want to make it clear, guys, that this is my own opinion, and I did make these tips quite general because I wanted it to be applicable to most people situations, but inshallah I'll leave it there, guys. As always, any questions or queries, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.